Thanks, Younus, for taking the time to talk with us.
Pleasure.
And give us some words of wisdom and inspiration for this batch of new entrepreneurs joining Entrepreneurs on Training (EOT). I'll start with sort of asking you to give us a little bit of an introduction about yourself, a little bit about your background, and we'll take it from there.
Okay. I'm a trainer by profession. I in fact call myself as a stand-up motivator, due to a lot of reasons as to how I function. Run a company called Institute of Skills, and the whole idea of, as a matter of fact, even getting into training was to serve a niche, to serve as many number of youngsters as possible, to mold them, to churn them and make them more dependent,
Right.
and self-reliant by and large. Basically what entrepreneurship is all about ultimately, isn't it? So this
It's almost talking about upskilling within entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. And of course, a good chunk of what we do as a company, as a matter of fact, started because of the entire system that is in place in terms of the education system.
Right.
And I think I was fortunate enough to actually study from the Jain group of institutions, like how you also have. So I think we were privileged, as a matter of fact, to get really good education. But how many people do actually get that kind of an honor?
And more than that, I guess you get it, and it's about what you do with it.
Absolutely, yes. So this is me in a very tiny background, and I'm intentionally, not saying a lot more because there's plenty, I'm sure, which will come in as your questions keep rolling in. As a matter of fact.
Sure. So obviously, Institute of Skills, your background, it all speaks to you being inspired by entrepreneurship, right? You got into entrepreneurship. So I just wanted to understand, what was your inspiration? What drove you to get into entrepreneurship? And a little bit about your journey so far in that space.
I must say I'm an accidental solopreneur and an intentional entrepreneur.
Okay.
Because if you actually look at my entrepreneurial journey, which was actually not even entrepreneurship, it was solopreneurship, started like this.
Right.
I'm sure plenty who are even viewing this must have definitely said this, or are saying this, that one day I will become an entrepreneur.
Right.
If you haven't become one. And we have this cushion that we rely on, that is, let me work for a few years, and after working for a few years, let me jump into that pool of entrepreneurship.
I can relate to that.
Yes.
I can relate to that.
Isn't it? So I also come from that same pool, or the same cushion, where parents kept saying, study well and get good marks so that
Right.
you can get good college, so that you can get a good job,
Right.
and so that you can get married. It's that song. I doubt if any of the parents, even though times are changing now, I doubt if most of the houses even have a conversation of a different connection where they say, study, if you don't study, how are you ever going to become an entrepreneur?
Correct.
So I in fact started my first ever business with a bank balance of 45 rupees.
Wow.
Because I could not withdraw it.
Minimum.
Yes. And thought entrepreneurship is going to be that red carpet event where you have the most important resource. Just because you're going to start a business, people are going to come and associate with you, and it's going to be all La La Land and hunky dory songs of success people would sing time and again.
Right.
But yeah,
Reality
I'm
is
sure
far
if you
from it,
ask
right?
an entrepreneur, they'll have a lot of the ups and downs, which are of course very, very important, as a matter of fact.
Right.
And when the entrepreneurial wave came in, I must say, one of the most beautiful part about entrepreneurship is that you have this constant worry as an employee whether you're going to get the next job or not. As an entrepreneur, you always have that pleasure of rejecting the next job that comes your way, because a lot of people want to hire you when they don't know that you're an entrepreneur.
Right.
You smile and you decline, saying that. Actually, talking about hiring, why not talk about you?
Right. Moving from a job seeker to a job provider or a creator.
Yes. I think that's where the kick and the real juices of entrepreneurship by and large are, isn't it?
Right. Absolutely. So what have been some of the highs and lows in this journey? Because like you said, entrepreneurship is challenging, right? It is not hunky-dory. It is not, the skies don't open up. There's no grand welcome. You're pretty much the peon to the CEO, right? You cover this whole gamut of things in the organization that you create. So what has been some of the highs and lows in this journey? Because there are those good times, there are sort of those positive times. There's also a lot of lows. So just take us through a couple of both highs and lows in your journey so far.
Let's start with the highs, as a matter of fact. One of the biggest blessing of being an entrepreneur is the feeling that because of you, many families are happy. Because when you look for a job, you feed your stomach. But when you look at starting a venture, you're looking at feeding a lot more stomachs and a lot more families.
Right.
And it reminds me of a story that I saw much later, of course, in my entrepreneurial journey, which is of a samosa wala. I don't know if any of you even know that story where a graduate from a very, very reputed college walks outside to a samosa stall, which is right outside the college, and looks at the samosa wala and says that, what are you doing with your life? Why are you selling these samosas? Why don't you get a job, do something good with your life so that your children can actually even be proud of it.
Right.
And that's when the samosa seller, as a matter of fact, looks at the graduate and smiles and says, I'm very happy the fact that you're studying. I'm sure you're going to get a good job. But then I don't want to get a job because every single day I sell close to 3,000 samosas. And each samosa goes to close to 10 rupees. So every single day I make 30,000 rupees. And I have 4 people who I've hired who I give a salary of close to 10,000 rupees every month. So if you're very good in math, considering the fact that you go to college, okay, I make 30,000 rupees a day, multiply by 30,000 rupees. And I also give 40,000 rupees out of that to my employees.
A month.
In a month.
Right.
And also tomorrow when my son or my daughter pass their graduation, I would want them to also understand that if I were to do a job, okay, the day I retire, no employee of mine is going to give their company handheld to my children. Because a son of an employee starts from zero, but a son or a daughter of an employer starts from where you live.
Right.
So you leave a legacy. It might be small or big, but you leave a legacy.
That's it. I love the fact that you touched upon that term legacy, and I think that's how people wanting to get into entrepreneurship should look at this beautiful journey itself as creating a legacy. Because it's not about creating money, it's not about starting something new, it's about solving something, creating a legacy for yourself, which is more long term, right? And I think I'm very happy that you touched upon that point.
And also about lows, everybody, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're an employee, you're going to have highs and lows. We have good days, we have bad days. For employees, you have Mondays, you have Fridays. If you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Sure.
But when we actually look at a life of an entrepreneur, a lot of us who are going to either start that entrepreneurial journey or already are in, have this perception that I can start my company today and take it to success the next month, and the month after I can have my Mercedes, or at least the first payment of Mercedes. It's not going to come. Probably an employee might get a Mercedes faster if they stay longer in their job than an entrepreneur. It again depends on the timelines and multiple factors. But you don't start a business to buy a Mercedes. You start a business to add value. And a lot of times the way you plan, it doesn't go that way because you're after all in the process of trial and errors. As an entrepreneur, if you actually look at the lives of all the successful entrepreneurs, they've actually made more mistakes in the beginning. Then they've actually made corrections because that one mistake led to another lesson, that led to another lesson, that led to another lesson. And then it became a success story for.
Right.
So considering the fact that in every entrepreneur journey there are going to be lows, I wouldn't want to brag or explain about those lows because ultimately, you can always share the success with others, especially with your employees.
Right.
But you sometimes need to own up to your mistakes.
Absolutely. You take ownership, right? It's not just your mistakes, but you basically own every single element of your venture, right? It could be somebody else making the mistake, but as an entrepreneur, I think you got to own the entire sort of framework and that ecosystem in a way of your organization.
Correct. Pay cuts for your own self,
right?
Going on holidays on a regular basis to no holiday at all.
Right.
Sometimes just reaching home at time can be a holiday for you. Okay. These are some of the things that you will always cherish when you look back.
Right.
I think it's a mixed bag, but in totality, it's a nice bag.
Very well said. And nice with that sort of, gets me to my next question, which is around the whole association with, Abdul said, basket options and just that framework that's brought into your entrepreneurship journey. Just share a few sound bites as to how did that come about and how is that journey of your entrepreneurship sphere been?
I have to also be very candid. I don't come from family of entrepreneurs at all.
Right. I can relate to that.
I have absolutely no aspirations of being an entrepreneur except for a verbal declaration that one day I will be one, with no plan, nothing.
Right.
Jane is in fact a very important pivot in my entrepreneurial life, because that's where we heard people from entrepreneurship to entrepreneurship to the various different pronunciation of it, got curious about, okay, what is this?
Right.
Started understanding, and then saw how so many people were so business savvy and tried to always do something which can add value to the society.
Right.
So many of us have never even understood the juices of the joy of giving. So that is where Abdul actually comes into picture, because Abdul was my super senior. And just imagine you're sitting in a class trying to figure out what the teacher is telling with no end to misery, and you have this smart looking young chap who comes into the class and speaks about his business that he started at such an early age. I was zapped. I sat there and I said, one day it will be an honor to work with him. And sometimes prayers do come true, isn't it? It really indeed was an honor to actually work with him. Still is an honor to work with him, because he's one true mentor in my life. And there's another thing. I'm sure a lot of times when you speak to people, especially entrepreneurs or unlike, they constantly focus on mentors. They say, why mentors are so very important. But there's something else that we need to also understand. That today, you need two kinds of people. You need mentors who will handhold you, who will guide you, and who will tell you that, look, I made certain mistakes, you don't. Be the parents.
Correct.
In your business.
Right.
But there's something else. You need sponsors. Somewhere deep down that your line of work and you as a person and your team are fantastic and phenomenal at the kind of work that you're doing.
Right.
But you also need somebody to go and tell it to others. Evangelize the entire process and tell people that I know this company who really believes in the work that they do and are doing this kind of work. Why don't you give it a try?
Right.
And I think that sort of lays foundations to an entire an interdependent ecosystem.
Correct.
I think that's where huge respect for Abdul, and also the kind of setup that we've come to in place to be part of. It's truly an amazing experience.
Fantastic. I think, again, very nicely you're leading into my next question, which is about ecosystem, right? So what does an ecosystem mean to you personally, and what does it do for an entrepreneur who wants to get into that journey versus somebody who doesn't have access to an ecosystem? What are the pros and cons, and really what does it mean to you having had access to an ecosystem?
Before I even go to the actual ecosystem, I'll share a small insight. Now, there are so many number of times that I've tried to actually make my competition my partner.
Right.
Because for a very long time, I've actually believed this, that the whole world is a buffet. It's not a pizza. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
Just because you have extra on your plate doesn't mean that I get less. Because there's plenty to serve.
True.
There's plenty to serve in this planet. that you also will have ample amount of time, resources, and avenues to serve, and I will also have.
Right.
But if I start hiding from you, or rather feeling inferior about your line of business with my line of business,
inferior, right?
it will never work, because as students, as bachelors, as employees, and I think even as entrepreneurs, we need to understand that together, everyone achieves more.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's what collaboration, an ecosystem does to us. Because if I took 4 years to do something, together we can actually do far greater work in those 4 years than what we could have as an individual company. And I think today, with the pace at which the whole world is going,
Absolutely.
and think about it, 11 years back, everything that is on us that we're so dependent on, from gadgets to technology, never existed. Just 11 years back. And it's not going to be the same the next 11 years.
True.
That's where everybody needs to work together, because entrepreneurship, of course, has money involved, no doubt about it. Nobody works for free. Nobody wants to start up businesses for free.
Right.
But I think if we need to really add value, it should be together.
Fair enough.
And that's where an amazing ecosystem works.
Right.
It's more like you scratch my back and I scratch yours.
That's it.
Wherever possible, we help you and you help us.
Right.
And that's what makes an ecosystem powerful, because everybody feeds on
Each other.
and grows collectively together
Correct.
to move along.
Correct.
And that's where group of Davids will actually defeat the Goliaths,
Well said.
and also make the world a better place, which is ultimately the goal of every entrepreneur.
It should be. If it's not, it should be.
It should be, yes.
Should be.
Yes.
Fair enough. Lastly, as closing remarks, just want to get some thoughts for our viewers in terms of their journey getting into entrepreneurship. What would you sort of give them any advice, tips, comments around getting into entrepreneurship, and also sort of what would it take for people who are on the edge of entrepreneurship? What would your message to them be in terms of go ahead, take that journey? What would be your motivational quote for them? Sort of make the journey happen.
Whether you know it or not, to everybody who's actually watching it, you already are an entrepreneur, but of your life. Because ultimately you're the master of your life. You're the boss of your life. So if you own your life, why should somebody own your work? Why shouldn't you be the owner of your own work and line of work, as a matter of fact? See, times are changing. I often joke about this. I think India does not have as many number of entrepreneurs because India does not have as many number of garages as America had. Because whether it's an Apple, whether it's a Google, whether it's Amazon, whether it's a Walt Disney, they all are garage startups. So now we can't keep modeling houses and making garages. You don't need garages.
Right.
You just need that one leap of faith. Because for all of you who are watching this particular video, just touch your heart and ask this question. Do you really enjoy the job that you're doing? Do you really love that boss that you're going and reporting to? We have this habit of constantly cribbing about why our life is not going right, but not take necessary steps to actually make it right. Because everyone has a company somewhere there in their head. See, ideas are nobody's IP, because nobody owns those ideas. For all of you who are watching this, how many times has it happened where you had an idea, you slept on it, and after a month, maybe a week, or even a year, somebody actually started a business from that same idea that you had somewhere hidden, because somehow telepathically they caught you and they beat you in your own thought process. So if you're not going to start today, I don't know when you're going to start. And I'm not saying that as soon as you finish this video, go resign. No. Entrepreneurship is about planning, and that's where a good plan can take a company from zero to God knows how many crores. Same way, a good plan can make you from an employee to an entrepreneur.
Absolutely, and hopefully Entrepreneurs on Training, which is what we're going to venture into as a business, provides that sort of platform to people who want to get into this journey, and it hopefully simplifies and adds the necessary value to people getting into entrepreneurship. So
yeah. And also about EOT, Entrepreneurs on Training, I sometimes when I meet anybody in training programs or in networking forums or even the business forums, I sometimes tell this to people that damn it, I wish I was born late. Because I think as time is progressing, everything is sort of handheld, spoon fed.
Right.
Because when we started our journeys,
true,
we had, like how you said, from Pune to a CEO, everything was us.
correct.
And I so wish that somebody had, we had an EOT way back.
Right.
It would have been a different experience altogether.
Absolutely.
Because everybody needs to be handheld and taken. And I'm very happy, and I wish you all the success and all the support in every way possible. To make more entrepreneurs and have the multiplier effect, which India
and that's
absolutely
exactly what we need. And I think India, the world needs that. And it's people who are not looking at entrepreneurship in the short run as a medium-term goal, but who want to build legacies. And those are the kind of people you want to associate with, help coach, mentor, and really help them build their ventures and legacies. So
yes. And also for the closing remark, remember the samosa wala example. You don't need to be a samosa wala, but remember, do you want to have your own baby, nurture that baby, and make sure that baby becomes a responsible individual? Or do you want to always keep feeding somebody else's baby, only to go home empty-handed and probably never get ownership of that baby that was never yours? So I think that's a thought that I want to sow in your seed and have you think about it and ponder, because I think you know what the answer is eventually going to come out, right?
Well said. And Younus, CEO of Institute of Skills, thank you so much.
Thank you so much
for your time.
Thank
It's
you.
been a pleasure. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you so much.